Welcome to today's talk, teaching, collaboration. This channel, this space is a space for positive collaboration of, higher vibration, meaning, of love, of light, of respect. Just trying to understand and not tear anybody down in that pursuit of understanding. With that being said, if you have any questions, or maybe if you have some access to research or answers or whatnot, definitely feel free to be active in the comments below. I know that there's a reason that this has been coming to me. Criminal Minds, Dr. Reed, when sometimes he would be putting together just all this information, right? And you'd get all these visuals of things that seemed random and not connected. It's a similar thing like that. It just snaps into place and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I'm gonna kind of jump in where it originally began, which was I had come across a YouTube video. It started with science and quantum physics and manifestation, that kind of a thing, law of attraction. And I came across a video that was being presented by a scientist, a Christian scientist, to a large audience of research that supports the concept of the divine in science, of God being present or evidence thereof. And, it really fascinated me. So I watched it. And it's the presentation of mathematical fractals called Mandlebrot sets. If you want to Google that, I'll spell that for you here real quick. It's Mandlebrot. Now, it kind of led me down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I can't find this video right now, but it left a huge impact on me. Because not only are they beautiful fractals, and they continually repeat, there's no end to how many times they repeat. You can continually zoom in. The amount of computer power that you need to have to be able to do all these equations is just astonishing. But the one video that really hit me was the one that used music theory. So it applied a sound, a note, to every point on the graph. Most of them were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Some of them you were actually playing music that you already recognize. So, and that could have been somewhatly planned on that individual's part, because if you do watch the video on it, you can change the variables quite a bit. But there was one where you encounter I believe it was bound numbers. If you were to try to see the visual, like if you were to go on YouTube and look for the burning ship Mandlebrot fractal, and you could compare that in its visual presentation to the classic presentation of a Mandlebrot set, it's not balanced, it's not in harmony, it's counterintuitive to what you had encountered in both the Mandlebrot sets, and there's another, it's called the Julia sets, and you can find them within the Mandlebrot set. But the music, the note that the sound that it made, the music it played was, I couldn't listen to it. I heard maybe a second or two and immediately shut it off, because it was out of alignment. It was out of harmony. If ever there was also some form of evidence of the opposing force of the divine, of love, of light, of harmony, that would be what is presented within the type of fractal that produced the burning ship fractal. And it really stuck with me, because doing this kind of work, sound, vibration, energy, in all of the universe is in a constant state of motion. Everything is vibrating. Nothing is actually truly solid. That really hit me. That really struck me. They kept having me bring my eye to the I Ching. The I Ching is just amazing. It's amazing. It's very, very old. And a lot of it could be used somewhat as a form of universal communication, cross species, aliens, that level of communication. And it's possible it actually came from that, because the histories reference it being something that the Yellow Emperor brought with him or gave China. And from watching a couple of documentaries, especially the Ancient Aliens, I remember them saying that he came down in a dragon, or he was a dragon and then he turned human. So, you could probably follow their line of sight with that, or their logical path with that. So it's possible it really did come from an alien civilization. It was the form of communicating, the language that they could use when interacting with other sentient cultures that would be able to be understood across any kind of language barrier. So it's very mathematical, and there are some theories that this particular author I've been looking into presented that were just brilliant, because it uses the symbol of the yin yang in a very dynamic and also applied scientific way. It's the Wordless Heavenly Book is the title of the book there. He presented this concept, a lot of this work, if I did the math right from what I have here, around 1976, and they're coming through now, 2001, there's the M theory that came out through Princeton, Pennsylvania, and Cambridge universities that are basically supporting the theoretical presentation that the author presented 25 years prior to 2001. So the concept is that there's actually two universes, because our universe is very dominant in the yang energy. Our universe is expanding and is accelerating. But because we're expanding, there has to be an equal and opposite effect in another universe that we're attached to, but is not necessarily we're somehow linked with it through the black holes and the white holes. Now, if you look at the yin yang symbol, there's a black hole and a white hole in the predominant of the opposite color. So those can be the symbolic ties and connections between this universe and our partnered universe. So the yin side is much smaller in size, and that's the sister universe. The yin aspect to it, the darker part of the yin yang symbol, is much more predominant. With the white holes, what really jumped out at me, because I know there's a visual in the Light Seer, in the Light Seer's Five of Cups deck, where the gal is cleaning her feet and it's being swirled into what appears to have been a black hole, but is now turned into a white hole. The concept with white holes is that they're pretty much the exact opposite of a black hole. They refuse any foreign matter to enter. They, however, only radiate their own matter and energy. Whereas black holes, they just have an incredibly strong gravitational pull that light can't even escape. And this still is somewhat of a mystery to our scientists, but the concept can be applied just as it is to people, individuals on a spiritual path. The really interesting image that he presented in the book that really strikes me. And I'll show this to you, and I'll describe it to you as well. The yin-yang symbol by itself, for the dots where the black hole or the white hole would be present in the opposite energy, there's another yin-yang symbol in each location. And this is presented throughout the book as, science is, there's these two opposing forces. One will be rotating left and the other will be rotating right, and they're always opposing, and there's chaos theory present in that. And where it comes in with a spiritual aspect to me, say that you are one of the yin-yang symbols in either the black hole spot or the white hole spot of a yin-yang symbol. So if you're that little dot, and that's part of a bigger yin-yang symbol, would that mean that bigger yin-yang symbol would be your higher self, your soul, your future self, as you continue to grow and expand and communicate? And this, just like the Mandlebrot set, is infinite, even though infinity is not an actual number. But it continues. No matter how much you zoom in or pull back out and expand, it'll be consistently the same pattern repeating itself. And that's the connection that was snapped into place there between the Mandlebrot sets and the yin-yang symbol in the I Ching. And I'm sure that, as time goes on, this will evolve to some extent. The other thing that was mentioned quite consistently is that because of the black holes and the white holes present on the yin-yang symbol within the opposite predominant color, the concept of the energy of one being able to transmute into the other is also very present, which brings in the concept of energy transmutation, of a light worker, of forces of darkness, and or like negative energy or negative emotion. When you are empathic, aware, sensitive, you're capable of interacting with the energy, being aware of it, feeling it as though it's your own when it's not. So the development of the awareness of where you are and where other begins is a crucial step in beginning to understand how to transmute the energy from, a negative or heavy emotion into something positive. The concept of being a light worker, it's going to mean something very personal to every individual who walks this path, because their path is going to have a lot of things in common with other light workers, but it's uniquely their own. However, as someone who would own that is part of their spiritual calling, part of their reason for being in this life, part of why you incarnated, why you're here, you're acting in an essence as a guiding light. You're acting as a white hole, that you shine that light, you share that light. You're a channel, a conduit, a connection between the physical and divine love and light. So it's the divine love and light that moves through you that shines. And the more that you elevate your vibration, the more that you work with your shadow self, the parts of you that are unhealed or you have throughout your life just kind of not been able to really own because of whatever circumstance. A lot of times it was from childhood. The more that you work on those things, the more light you're able to comfortably channel through your being and transmute. Now, transmutation is not necessarily for every empath or every light worker, though I do believe that we're all capable of that. I think every human being is. I think every single human being is capable of choosing this path if they desire to. But sometimes this path chooses you. You don't necessarily have to just be this space of transmuting all of this like heavy, stuck, dense, energy. Sometimes there's a need to, especially in today's world with so much kind of just present, so much fear mongering, if you will, just to kind of help everybody be a little more easy to control. Because fear itself, like, I firmly believe in that acronym, that it's an acronym, that it's false evidence appearing real. However, like if you're being chased by a lion or a tiger or a bear or something, like that's a legitimate fear. That's legitimate. But if it's a story that you're being told about something that's happening on the other side of the planet, if it, you even know it for sure is on the other side of the planet, like there's so many ways that we don't have direct access to the evidence. We're relying on what's being reported to be the truth. And I want to say I respect every single spiritual path and journey as long as, there's love and light present in its pursuit. I'm sure that there's probably some spiritual practices that's just not part of the equation. So that's the only reason I say that. But I respect every single path. I find that love and light is present in many human experiences in their unique relationship with the divine, regardless of other cultures that they've been exposed to. They still have that spark of light in them, and they still understand love and light and truth within that. What I found really interesting in this book is that he references what's going on right now with the planetary alignments, with the 7-body procession, being able to be experienced within a month's time, at least visually within the sky. But he mentioned it because it was referenced that it would come in cycles, and that the locals, which floods would come, in certain cycles, and that it was time for everybody to make it to the mountain because they would have their head above the water then. And that there would be the planetary bodies in the sky. Venus and Saturn seem to be pretty paired pretty closely throughout this whole next month. And that would have a gravitational effect on the Earth, and how the water would move over the surface, and earthquakes, and the moon played a big part in that as well. From what I have been researching about the times for the earthquakes that have been going on recently, there was some pretty heavy alignments with the moon and the sun, and exerting extra force with the solar flares as well coming through. During this planetary alignment and procession, your ability to manifest is to be amplified. It's supposed to be amplified. We have a stethoscope to the universe, and the universe has a stethoscope to us. More effective co-creation during this next month. Now, this energy will probably still be echoing for quite some time after that. The dates I have here are January 25th through February 28th, but there are more things of note coming in this next year. It starts in Aquarius. Venus and Saturn, they're in Aquarius. And then it moves into Leo. There's a lot of triple conjunctions as well in February, April, and in September there's one in Leo. And there's a unique aspect to, or symbolism to, when the moon is visible and how it will look on the horizon. The April 25th, the conjunction, it's supposed to, between the moon and Venus and Saturn, it's supposed to look like a smiley face. Like, how much more could the universe be giving a wink, a nod, a nudge to us here that we're heard? It's just, there's so many synchronicities within it. There is something too with the 3-body problem that comes into this, which I think has more to do with the concept, or is best presented through the concept of the yin yang symbol, that is really centered around 2 opposing energies. There's not a third option. And there's a reason that the 3-body problem is not one that can be solved. Because you're not meant to have a third energy. But the 3-body would be like adding, instead of yin yang, there would be like a whole nother energy force present within the universe that would be something that we would be able to have a strong awareness of. There would be so much overwhelming evidence of it. Now this too, I was doing some research as well into like the Tree of Life and how that relates with the Tarot and some of what's going on with the Tesla 369 manifestation science. And it kind of looked like another visual I had seen of the hero's journey. And a lot of things are snapping into place. And I'm doing this research. The first card that's in this particular reference, and its number is 22 for like soul path, soul number. And this was for will to wisdom. In the Tree of Life, I'm probably not going to pronounce this right, but it's, so please forgive me, Hokmah and Keter. And that's, Keter is like the highest, like it's like the divine energy coming down into the 3D world and being manifest here. And Hokmah is where the divine mind interacts, links, communicates, finds common ground with the human mind, the human thought. It's also listed as Unity, Mastery, the Messiah, Archangel Metatron, Teacher of Righteousness. And Matrix really jumped out at me. And later in the research, I actually came back because the Matrix in this reference is not speaking to an oppressive force. So this is the Matrix built upon love, built upon compassion, built upon light, truth. This is the Matrix that was inherited, that we were gifted by divine to be able to experience this space, this life. In this essence, this is a lot of what light beings anchor into the reality. It's part of how the concept of the planet of Gaia elevating from 3D to 5D, but that doesn't mean that Gaia stops existing in 3D. In that butterfly effect, that chaos theory, there is a path where that stays there. And there's some souls and individuals and aspects that remain there because they use their will to choose that path. And others that use their will to strengthen this matrix of love and truth and compassion and help raise that vibration in co-creation with one another and with Gaia and with divine to elevate the vibration up into the 5D. Now 5D, when I use that term, I'm specifically meaning it in a spiritual sense. There is math present that speaks to dimensions within the Mandlebrot set that are talking points of reference. 5D, when I speak of that, in this essence, it is speaking to the more higher self, the awareness of these things in your daily life and your experience. 3D is, I gotta go grocery shopping, I gotta put gas in my car, I gotta take care of my physical reality. So moving into the Tesla aspect to this with the 369, which speaks of vortex manifestation. That's part of something that Abraham Hicks says that is really it's very consistent. She talks about putting that into your vortex consistently. So I think that this is just another reinforcement of that concept that what you give your focus to, you manifest. So the concept is with the 369 is you come up with 3 affirmations, really positive affirmations. Probably the most universal, I would say, is the concept of, money comes easily and effortlessly to me. Okay, you have that affirmation 6 times a day, and each affirmation you give 9 seconds of your focus to. So it's not just sitting there going, money comes easily and effortlessly towards me. And you do that for 9 seconds and you just have it on repeat and you're saying it and you're not going, okay, well, this is my reality. This is what I'm experiencing. You got to kind of add that visualization of this is happening. This is currently my experience. And you're to do this. Honestly, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do it just kind of indefinitely, but I've seen numbers presented of like 45 days and stuff like that. But the vortex aspect is that it's a circle. It's a 360-degree circle, and 3 plus 6 is 9, so 369 is present within that. And there's the mathematical plotting of points on the outer circumference of a circle, 1 through 9, evenly dispersed, and the symbolism that's present within that. The overlap, the window. I've actually drawn some correlation with other systems with that, but I'm kind of getting it's not quite time for that to be shared yet. My initial take after watching that was that there was the need, because of the audience that was being presented to, for it to be as cold, distant, and clinical almost in its approach as possible. And you could tell the presenter was feeling self-conscious, but courageous and standing up for his faith. And I do have respect for that. If you were to say this is the mind of God and the mind of God is the numbers, I don't know. What comes to mind is that's basically saying that the house is the 2x4s and the support beams. That it's not about the comforts of home. It's not about the living that occurs within that home, the love that takes place within that home, which the application of music theory to the plotted points in the fractals presented that aspect to it, in my opinion, in my experience of it. It brings in that spiritual aspect, that intuitive aspect. Looking to the numbers in the scientific field is probably a safe space. But if we're going to be moving into a future where this could become the foundation of a spiritual, religious practice, it's missing out on, it's like seeing the tree but not the forest, seeing the forest but not the tree. Like you're comfortable with the tree next to you, you know it, but you're scared of the forest, so you cling to the tree, and vice versa. As well as a concept of your own relationship with divine is your relationship with divine. Along the lines of what I was expressing about respecting all religions and spiritual practices as long as they're in the pursuit of love and compassion and truth. If there's condoned violence and abuse and subjugation and oppression, that's not the pursuit of love and light and truth. There's a disharmony there. So if this becomes foundational to how our society begins to relate to the divine as having proof of the divine, then there needs to be a balance present, intuitive spiritual balance present, to have harmony, to have balance as a society. If I were to present any kind of a concept of why That could be something to a scientist. I would say instinctively, we have instincts we don't understand. We don't know where we got them from. We don't, and all of us have them to some extent, at least to the majority. So when hearing the sound of the Mandlebrot sets and the Juliet sets, and just how beautiful and uniform they are, and hearing that is just, oh. But then there are kinds like that, the burning ship, where it's just so repelling. It's so repelling. Why are we aware of that without knowing any of the science or the math or being able to do the calculations ourselves? Why would that instinctual reaction be so visceral? But there needs to be some kind of a tip of the hat to the intuitive aspect. Similar to Einstein doing his thought experiments. In his time, if he had been doing that 100 years prior, whatnot, like that could have been seen as like witchcraft. That could have been seen as something that would have gotten him killed or persecuted. But now we understand the science of it. We understand why. We understand how it worked, but we also know that his brain, whether, it was the chicken or the egg, whether or not his mind, his brain physically was younger than his age because he did the thought experiments, or was he capable of doing those thought experiments because his mind was capable of remaining young? Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this, and I hope to get this conversation started. I hope that some questions have been maybe highlighted, possibly some answers that you guys would like to share if you have access to any new research or have made some connections yourself. Definitely feel free to leave that below in the comments, and I'll do what I can to make sure that is maintained as a positive, safe space for the sharing of concepts and ideas. So the divine within me honors the divine within you. Namaste.